Whoa. It's exactly the same as the flowers. Look at the teeth. Concentric rows. Something here is making giant waves in the June pool.
Sharks have teeth like that, don't they?
Do you think it's a crossbreed?
We can't crossbreed between different species.
Gotta just press record. And here we are, rolling live. It's Friday evening, February 10th, 2023. Welcome to the Hawkeye Rising YouTube channel. I've just hit record and you'll be seeing this at some point, whether early this morning or at some other time. Anyway, I'm Clint, your host and your Hawkeye. It's going to be a fascinating show this evening. This has been, what do you say? What can I say about this? Definitely a personal journey, family, friends, and it's in a way it's time to start talking about this stuff because some recent developments in my life and some that are close to me, and certainly it's time to get into some uncomfortable subject matter. Certainly we've all been tried and tested over these last 2, 3, 4 years. Had paradigms shifted, changed, smashed, completely deconstructed. Who knows where we're at, right? So wherever this finds you, welcome to the Matrix. Welcome to the Hawkeye Rising YouTube channel. Okay, let's preface this with a June 2018 email to the captain. Now, and to preface that, in my family, my immediate family and extended family, I come from a long line of chronic disease, neurological, cancer, debilitating at times, gastrointestinal disorders. And I'm sure, this is, it's not unique. Many of you could say the same thing. So this isn't, pun intended, I'm not talking out of my ass. This is well-worn ground for me. For you, maybe this will be new, but maybe you'll hear something that might give you a glimmer of hope, because there are answers, and this idea of not just question marks. It's good to always ask questions. It's good to question everything. As we have learned, there is no authority, especially if it wears a certain colored coat and has a certain instrument around its neck. Remember, we've heard this, the appeal to authority fallacy. How irresponsible, asinine. Pick your word, pick your adjective to describe when we turn our soul, when we turn our health, when we turn our responsibility over to somebody else because we believe that they have the answer. They have an answer, and we clearly don't, because somehow they're an authority figure in some pick your field, where the truth of the matter is we're dealing with those that have been heavily indoctrinated, and therefore are they giving us information at all, relative information at all. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but anyway, I don't want to get into that. Very easily to get lost in the weeds with that. Let's just dive in. So I come from with my family, close, so immediate and extended. My own personal journey, well, essentially started. What do all children get, more or less? I had many of those, many of them traumatic. Many of them left some very traumatic marks of being restrained, and then also, it's like, how far do I want to get down to this one? Nonetheless, 20 years ago, when things really went sideways for me, in a very, very near-death experience, near-death accident that led to testing, more testing, and more testing, eventually certain types of surgeries, which led to injections here and there, which led to more testing, and just being injected with a lot of different things, and which forever changed how I walk, how I am. And of course, yeah, the good old life and pain experience, which, so then, and of course, then being amongst a family, which led to certain choices of, okay, if I can learn something about health, and if what I learned can be applied to my certain family members and friends even, then this is well worth the juice is worth the squeeze. All right, let's get into this email. First, wet my whistle, sip of water. So, Cap, I prepared and shared a large portion of this as a testimony to family and a few around me battling with long-term diseases and ailments. It's not a be-all, end-all, cure-all, just a testimony. I battled with health issues for years now. I cannot believe what I've eliminated over the last month, but I've also just begun. And because I know you've been injected with literally Lord knows what, with your military service and subsequent health issues with your backhands, etc., I thought I'd pass this along to you. This is just a testimony. Why did I? Okay, so introducing something called mimosa pudica seed. I've been exposed to mold, and mold, green, red, and black, and heavy metals. Late April, while I used to pedal my bicycle to an office where I would join in. This is going back a few years, where I jump in on early morning. Well, Eastern Standard Time, they'd be early morning, but translate that to Pacific Standard Times, it'd be really early. And I think we were even recording on Skype and having some consistent sound recording issues. But I'd always have to go underneath these power lines, and I would get shocked. I hated this because I would get shocked every single time in a specific part of my body. Heavy duty electric shock through my left wrist and hand. A wrist and hand that had given me grief since 2002 or 2001. Post big ass accident with pain, numbness, tingling, radiating up my arm. Actually, I had issues with both hands, but my left side was worse. It was an accident where I ended up getting injections actually in both shoulders, and then subsequently having a response of pain, numbness, and tingling in both hands and wrists. Okay, I've got a small mercury. So I've had a mercury filling, been injected with, the V word, gadolinium for certain tests, like MRIs, radioactive material for bone scans, had spinals and general anesthetics for surgeries, and have metal parts in me. So the electric shock happened, and that settled it. So after this, I'm going to be diving into this is going back to my 2020 blog. Pause that, but I'm going to continue with my email. So my 2018 email, and this has a specific, an interesting date because this corresponds to Girolamo Savonarola, which is a reformer hero to us, and he's in Romans and Mass Destruction. So Johnny's fourth book, which thankfully I got to have a part in proofreading and giving editing suggestions for that too. Even have a poem published in the beginning of it. Thank you very much for that, Cap. Never had any of my work published, and yet in the last 3 of your books. Okay. So Ayurvedic medicine. So this particular seed comes from India, and this begs the question why the Jesuits were one of the first countries they went to after the papal bull Regimini Militanti Ecclesia, September 27, 1540. They pressed to India, Francis Xavier, the Goan Inquisitions, and then of course he would press on to eventually China, which he wouldn't make to, but literally diet the so-called border, and Matteo Ricci would take over. So Mimosa pudica seed. Okay, so 2 days into Mimosa pudica seed, the first big worm passed. More followed in the 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. Interesting, the experience of taking Mimosa pudica. I also experienced the nipping sensations in my abdomen. Okay, so told you we're going to be getting into something interesting. I think I'm bringing this up because I've heard there's a couple different 2 or 3 different, what do they call it? The keyword or the code word, the fiber pectin and the hydroxy certain things that have been passed around. And it's not that there's a reason why that's important, even though the premise is false. But we're going to pause that because we're going to continue with this. Okay. Evening of the 23rd, not feeling well. In the evening, going to bed, I woke up with a very tense, painful, taut flexing. And this was a profound experience. And I haven't reached out. I hope whatever ever can be able to connect with Amanda Vollmer to discuss this, because there's something here. I had family members with one who can't use their left side, and another family member who actually has had tremors in their left side, and eventually it radiated from their left arm across their chest, jaw, right chest, even, and started in their right arm. But chronic tremors. So, okay, like very, very disconcerting, very, very, and of course, okay, that's a whole other topic to get into, in a rabbit trail. We're not going to run right now. So that was new to me. Okay, woke to very tense, painful, taut flexing left shin muscle, as well as the toes of my left foot, which knurled tightly over my foot, almost made a fist itself. Twitching and knurling under, and all involuntarily and painful. That was new to me. My left hand did the same thing. I remember having to try and open up my hand, and then my foot. I used to have this issue with my hands at night, and that subsided considerably. And that morning, after waking up to that, going back to sleep a couple hours later, waking up with the sudden, I got to go to the loo. The morning of the 23rd, May 23rd, so Girolamo Savonarola's his death date anniversary. So I passed another worm, a fatty, gloved up, pulled it out, dressed it up, and photographed it. And for the next 24 hours, I passed blood in my urine. Honestly, I thought I was going to be passing a kidney stone or something was going to pass, but the blood cleared up, and yeah, and then I just asked, is that a coincidence? the experience of my left hand, left foot, left shin, and then the passing of this big ass worm, roundworm, and then urinating blood. It's like, okay, what are all the what's the connection here? And then sent that off, and I believe there was a response, and it was, even if I had to get to an effing veterinarian, and which I didn't go that time. Remember, who even back then, 2018, nobody was going to listen. I couldn't imagine telling anybody that. Even now, it's 2023, and no, I'm talking about it. But at the same time, it's time, because there's something here, and I'm going to take a. Actually, and it was incited. There was it was either a CDC or. I can't share it at the moment. Okay. Let me just confirm. Okay, so this is my Hawkeye, hawkeye134.blogspot.com. Again, that's Hawkeye134. I'll put the link in the description below. Health Part 1, Truth About Terrain and Allied Germ Theory Matrix. So this was published October. How can I read? August 21st, 2020. The first premise for this post stems from my personal health journey. An article from 2007 about sharks, heavy metal toxicity, and the parasites that enable them to survive. So, interestingly enough, parasites are symbiotes, which we're going to get into. Now, this is citing the article, and I'm not going to jump to it, but it is I believe it's a science.com. Anyway, the link to the citation is there. Hopefully it's still alive. So parasitic worms inside the guts of sharks are absorbing high concentration of toxic heavy metals, researchers have found. The worms could be useful to scientists trying to check up on the health of ocean waters, and they could be saving the sharks from metal poisoning, at least for now. Remember, so this article, nature.com. Okay, it looks like the article has changed from, but at least, and that was published the 25th of June, 2007. Fantastic. Good. Whether one ascribes to, okay, so now here's back to me. Okay, remember, I'm not a writer, or at least as journalism is not my thing. The captain a couple years ago critiqued the health part 2, and certainly said there was no balance in my article, but at the same time, I'm trying to present as best as I know how, and from my experience and from everything that I could pull from, because nobody in the mainstream narrative or even on the peripheral is talking about this. And it's like, okay, as your Hawkeye, as a watchman, what information have I been given to be able to pass on? Especially if you yourself or a family member who has a labeled health issue, and that it has subtle or aggressive tremors, or pick the name, pick the title. Okay, whether one ascribes to intelligent design, where all kinds have a common designer and creator, or Darwinian evolution, where all kinds have a common ancestor, it is clear in both systems that something common is shared. All living things take in something, and all living things eliminate something. Entrance and exit, simple. The second premise for this post is to acknowledge that the human body is a closed system. To simplify, the body is a sealed unit inside and out, with plumbing that has access to the atmosphere running through the middle of it from ears, nose, and throat to the anus. This pathway hosts an individual's ever complex microbiome. Okay, so I come from a automotive engine designing background, and when considering systems in the human body, I take what my knowledge and understanding of from the automotive realm. And so somebody might say there's no such thing as an immune system. I disagree with that. I don't necessarily, but to a large extent. But at the same time, I don't know enough to be able to come up with a rebuttal and say, no, this is actually how it goes. At the same time, just as I'm presenting here, I'm presenting a piece of plumbing, literally from stem to stern. We can all agree, okay, it's a closed system. At the same time, yes, there's multiple layers to it, because obviously we take in food, and that food is processed not by our body, but by other things in our body that enable us to absorb into our body nutrients and so on. And then, of course, what we eliminate. Okay, this is common sense, I would say. And I'm believing, okay, this is common sense. And if you've never thought about this, okay, now's the time to start thinking about it. Because how do we interact with our environment 24/7, 365, if we're going by the Great Gregorian calendar, and our pets too. Okay, so because pets, I believe in Health Part 2, discuss this idea of what we share with our pets and what our pets share with us. And it's not to inspire fear, but it's to inspire knowledge, and so that which will make us better stewards of how we care for not only our family members, but also our pets as well. Because again, how we turn over if family members to a particular system, and trusting that system and the people in it to have some kind of knowledge and know-how. And we do the same thing with our pets, our beloved pets. And okay. Get to that next. Let's just make sure I'm still good. Okay, 20 minutes in. Thanks for being here. Stick with me. I'm sure, as uncomfortable as this might be, who doesn't like to talk about shit? I had this experience at the same time. Hey, especially when dealing with the elderly. I had a father who, for over his final decade, we were discussing shit all the time, almost daily, because if you don't go, well, what's the saying? Death begins in the gut. Death begins in the colon. And when a person stops going to the bathroom, it's going to back everything up. And shit that doesn't happen causes other shit to start to happen. Okay, closed system, microbiome. The only time this closed unit is opened is during tissue injury, by scratch, cut, laceration, stab, bite, amputation, surgical incision, or by needle puncture, i.e. the V word, or life-saving intervention, or emergency medicine. The third premise for this post and part series is surveillance. Okay, this was something you got to ask why about this as well. The literal examination of our excrement by the National Wastewater Surveillance System for traces of the novel coronavirus. Okay, this is before it was renamed, but we were still calling it the coronavirus. So novel coronavirus, COVID-19. While wastewater testing is not intended to replace clinical testing, it can help communities where COVID-19 tests are underutilized or unavailable. The CDC says wastewater testing could potentially have an enormous reach. 80% of U.S. households are connected to a municipal sewage system. Think about that. 80% of U.S. households are connected to a municipal sewage system. Not only can everything that can potentially, whether it has a barcode, speaking of food, but from produce to processed foods and so on. Everything that we purchase is measured, and then everything that we intake and excrete or eliminate can also be measured. Think of that kind of system that we're in. Like this is just about surveillance of SMART devices, self-monitoring, analyzing, and reporting technology, but what our bodies literally eliminate. We're biological surveillance. So depending on the level of virus in the sewage, this is still the quotation, wastewater testing can also be a leading indicator of a worsening outbreak. People with COVID-19 who show symptoms and those who don't can discard traces of the virus, allowing scientists to collect data on both types of infection, the CDC says. This is me. I recently came across the work of the late Dr. Hulda Clark. I don't know if you can see. I know this is... Here I'm given the classic duality. I'm not a Freemason. I love monochrome, and I'm trying to create something that's engaging me. So if black and white pisses you off, well, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to deal with it for at least for this much, because this is what I'm doing for the moment. I'm also trying to run through Firefox because for the last two broadcasts, I had the shitty sound again, sound ticks and so on. Anyway, what a book. I have this heavily. It's that time again. Hold on, here we go. Good, here we are. Fantastic. And we're still recording. Okay. I recently came across the work of the late Dr. Hulda Clark. She has interesting birthday and death dates too. October 18th and September 3rd. Remember, on September 3rd, we have the finger stroke of God citation from a Jesuit site in a Jesuit timeline that gives us the Paul III after Loyola presented his formula to Paul III, September 3rd, 1539. Paul III declared, "This is the finger stroke of God." And September 3rd, 2005 or 7, Clark, I would say she received the accident pillow, but that's another. Okay. Clark, who published a handful of books about her research and clinical findings when working with people of all ages with all kinds of illness and diseases. The following is perhaps a timely and shocking rebuttal to the mainstream narrative about how diseases, and more specifically viruses, are contracted and shared. Okay, I'm jumping ahead. This is almost 3 years ago, so I'm like, okay, where did I get my dumbass here? Because it's like, where did I get this definition? Because it's in italics. Okay, what's a virus? And I think in part, even Clark, in this book, I believe 1995. So we're going back 28 years. So just because she doesn't say flat Earth, or just because she says certain things, doesn't automatically discredit her. This is, remember, what's the context? Remember, no text without a context. Virus definition: late Middle English, denoting the venom of a snake. From Latin, literally slimy liquid poison. The earlier medical sense, superseded by the current use as a result of improved scientific understanding, was a substance produced in the body as a result of disease, especially one that is capable of infecting others with the same disease. Virus equals poison. Interesting. Okay, where do I want to go with this? Okay, I'll just continue. Bear with me. It's exciting to talk about. Okay, is a virus actually the toxic excrement of the many parasites that have taken up residence inside of us? and chronic disease the result of a multitude of these critters. Let us examine some of the work of the late Canadian Dr. Hulda Clark with excerpts from 2 of her books. Using a technique by the captain, the italics suspended for ease of reading. So this is Clark's work now. Over a century ago, the scientists of Europe proposed the existence of a quote, life force called Elan Vital. They were scorned out of existence and out of jobs. Young scientists, including myself, were systematically taught to scorn this idea. Of course, we were also taught that a good scientist was unemotional, does not scorn ideas, think about this, a good scientist is unemotional, does not scorn ideas, has a completely open mind, and does not rule something out until it is disproved to their satisfaction. Think of the scientific method. Think of any subject which it's come up with the team briefs about. There's an idea or something is presented, and as crazy it sounds, we're supposed to dispassionately anyway, going through the steps rather than instant rebuttal because something sounds so crazy that it can't possibly be true. Think about the beginning of Johnny's third book, Eaters of Children. Of course, I think it answers it poses three different. Oh, I can't remember. One of them has to do with, of course, we went to the moon. Those kind of what do I want to say? Now I'm getting lost. And my goodness, thanks for hanging in there. Hope the youthfulness of college years is so susceptible to prejudices. My goodness, prejudices. Can I talk? Prejudice is of all kinds, and the desire for acceptance is so great that special effort needs to be made to teach neutrality, or at least to distinguish between emotion and fact. Where have these basic pedagogic principles gone? Pedagogy. I hear previous Adolfo Nicholas, 29th or 30th? 29th? 31st? No, 30th. Jesuit Superior General. Pedagogy. Basic pedagogic principles gone. I was indeed inspired with the phrases search for truth and then promptly led down the path of search for acceptance. And so she states, I have in part also considered, should I actually read large portions of her, oh boy. I can imagine, anyway. Okay. Listening to my Canadian slur, my West Coast Canadian slur. Only 2 health problems. No matter how long and confusing is the list of symptoms a person has, from chronic fatigue to infertility to mental problems, I'm sure to find only 2 things wrong. They have in them pollutants and or parasites. This is quoting Clark. It's a valiant quest, the quest for health. More good news is that it is not expensive. The cost will range from a few $100s to only a few thousand in order to eliminate both problems and cure your chronic diseases. Now remember, this is 1995. Things have certainly changed, especially in our environment, what we take in our water, in our food, in our air. And I think I have stated in a previous team brief that I believe what got Clark killed. Yes, that's not said. That's not how you would read about her death. I think she actually battled a certain type of cancer. But I think her high criticism of the American Dental Association and its practices, because literally, what is modern dentistry ever since? What has it done? Just like continuing on what earlier doctors would do with purgatives, arsenic, was it cobalt? Yeah, anyway, heavy metal compounds in order to create a person or cause a person to have a diarrhea dump while having a person swallow large amounts of like heavy metal toxins. Very disconcerting that, and that was accepted mainstream practice. And now imagine whenever it started, you have heavy metals implanted, so a source of constant leaching. And what's around your mouth? So okay, yeah, sorry. From you got from certain lymph nodes. Well, the brain clusters of lymph nodes and nerves, which of course think of the spine, but then of course we've got our thyroid, a little further down, thymus, heart, liver, lungs, pancreas, spleen, then our stomach, intestines, kidneys. For women, there's breast tissue, ovaries. Men, there's in both men and women, bladders, and then women ovaries, men prostate, testicles, and so on. And certain organs, certain things collect in certain organs. Okay, pollutants and or parasites. Be a health detective. And this what if so? Don't criticize their work if you've not read it. It's I'm ready to say, get the go somewhere else. If it's like making an uninformed decision just because the subject matter is going to it either strikes a nerve or it seems so far out there that it cannot possibly be true. Yeah, remember, as your Hawkeye, I'm presenting you with something. If I'm anything like, I'm not saying I'm a watchman on the wall, but I'm something. I've come through a series of unique experiences, and I think in part what's coming has to do with what words do I want to use? Taking advantage of our ignorance, our biases, and if we're able to actually, okay, we'll get into the solution later. But now I'm presenting the problem. Be a health detective. Okay, after curing your own disease, teach your friends and family how it's done. So this idea of being personally responsible, and a resounding F, yeah, rock on. Be your own health detective. You are responsible. You are personally responsible for your own health. After curing your own disease, teach your friends and family how it's done. Families are related, and the problems are related. And as I've shared with the captain, this is the only work. Yes, Amanda Vollmer has covered some of this to a point, but I've not come across anybody else that has described my experience. And the thing is, it's not just my experience. Others that I know personally, it's like this: taking the scientific method, giving it to a peer, them applying it, and them having the exact same experience. And it's like, which confirms my hypothesis and my experiences is it's not unique to me. Anyway, families are related and the problems are related. This should make the task easier. If your aunt, father, and brother had diabetes as well as yourself, and all were cured after introducing them to this concept and technology, isn't it worthy of notes in your family's history? Notice what a strong line of inheritance there can be, not due to sharing genes, but due to sharing a roof, a table, a supermarket, and a dentist. Many problems can be disinherited. Bring hope to your family by proving disease's true etiology. Bring respect back for your loyal genes that bring you hair color, texture, not hair loss, that bring you eye color, not eye disease. Killing all your invaders is just the first step, though. It is indeed the life-saving step, but getting well is more than saving your life. Next comes the more tedious task of finding their sources. Where did they come from? Why did they invade you so massively? The story of your personal pollution unfolds as in a book. Killing parasites, removing pollutants, and clearing gallstones and kidney stones from your body is a powerful combination of treatments. It is so powerful you can change yourself into a new person in half a year and then go on improving for years more. Okay, what I did, I think I'll end it there for now. What I did want to share is how I opened this I am sharing actually. So the email that I wrote, the captain, I know, okay, personally applying Roger Bacon should be Francis Bacon's scientific method. Roger Bacon did also, I believe his system is what led to Francis Bacon's, what we know and understand as a scientific method. So yes, warning, graphic photos. It's a good thing it's in black and white. It's not as, well, what do you say? Okay. Personally applying the scientific method. So your Hawkeye's personal experience with critters on the inside, confirming that there's confirming something's going on within the 28 plus feet of dark, wet bacteria thriving open to the atmosphere digestive tract. This little critter, oh boy, I think here's a wooden Q-tip. I think it's 3 or 4 inches. I think this entire length is just over 12 inches. It just happened to be Johnny Cash. Okay, this little critter. So was it a scarce? I don't know. Who do I take this to get it confirmed? I did have it in the freezer for a long time. So this little critter was passed, one of many and much debris, after taking Ayurvedic Mimosa pudica seed capsules, black walnut, and wormwood tincture. What I left out, because it was so crazy, that night I took mimosa, black walnut, and wormwood tincture, and turpentine, a teaspoon of turpentine with a tablespoon of white sugar, that's also what would be what Dr. Jennifer Daniels would call the Candida cleaner. So not just mimosa, although I have had incredible results with mimosa pudica seed all on its own. That's another story. But this combination, mimosa, black walnut, wormwood tincture, and turpentine, the experience of the knurling of my left hand, my left shin, and my left foot, and then being woken up in the night with that, and then falling back asleep after uncurling my hands and feet. Maybe after another hour or two of sleep, waking up and with the sudden, I need to go to the bathroom now. So this is what I passed. Leading me to consider the intimate connection between the gut and the nervous system. Consider this. Is this the first brain, or is what surrounds our intestines the first brain? And in part, I had a very close family member who had the severe tremoring. And this is where it hurts, because in part, why do we do what we do? And I'll share this intimate detail. This was motivated by love, because, well, does not the son want to save the father? Does not a child want to save their parents, or literally sacrifice himself in some way, shape, or form? It's, in a way, it's inverted. We know that parents do things, sacrifice on another level as well for their children. And yet here was an experience that I was motivated by. If I could make myself better and document it, could I heal? Could I help? Could this knowledge then? It's like literally the hero's journey, heading into the other realm and returning without dying, or perhaps at the cost of dying, but returning if you don't die in the other realm, return with a certain new knowledge, learn knowledge, and being able to give that knowledge to either your community or apply it somewhere. And I brought this knowledge to my father, and even in his health and state, what did he say to me? He said, "Why don't you just keep that to yourself?" And I have since 2018. I barely talked about this. And why am I talking about this now? Well, it turns out another family member who was angry that I had brought this up back in 2018 recently, after a period of illness, coughed up a translucent white roundworm. Coughed up. I've heard stories of stuff coming out of ears, stuff coming out of eyes, stuff coming out of nose, stuff being pulled out of. I've not had that experience, but now to know somebody in a very close proximity that we have this knowledge now, and again, somebody who was as skeptical as a person could be, it happened to them, and I don't even know what they were not taking what I had been taking and rotating through. So that's in part why it's like, okay, now it's time to start talking about this, because there's something going on here. And again, if I'm given something, and as a watchman and as your Hawkeye, I've got to pass it on. Otherwise, the blood's on my head. Okay, so in color, at the same, and I've also had other things pass that. So with blood, and I'll get into this in the next, because this is just on another level, and it literally, you get to what the F is inside a person, and this is something that is never talked about. You're not going to pass it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to be able to go and get a stool test and have something come back and confirm. And in part, it's because the traffic jam takes place. Okay. I don't want to get into Hawkeye's hypothesis, but I think I'm on to something, because not just our biliary tree, but the ampulla vater, or the common bile duct, where it empties into the small intestine right immediately after the stomach. I can't remember the name of the sphincter muscle, or the valve that essentially the acidic contents of the stomach. It protects the small intestine, and then anyway, this is where a lot of traffic is. So it's certainly higher up than just your large intestine, near the exit. And remember, we have 28 feet of plumbing, plus 28 plus feet of plumbing inside of us. Okay, I'll leave it at that now. You can digest this. I know I've had many people have commented on previous videos that I've uploaded, have inquired about parasites, about stomach issues, about bathroom, about and whether or not and I'm trying to approach all those as sincere, not just somebody just trying to take a piss. And So anyway, I've tried to answer those as sincere as possible, and I've tried to upload things that I key video and talking points that were meaningful to me. Anyway, I'll continue this. Okay, and then why I'm bringing this up as well. So academic. No, which one is it? So FDA.gov. Why you should not use ivermectin to treat or prevent COVID-19. So, I think there's the psyop of that as well. Even though there is some truth to it, but to automatically discount and call it bullshit, I think that is an error. And because again, I'm bringing my own experience, and here it is. Okay, let's leave it at that. 49 minutes in. Okay, goodness. Okay. How best to leave it? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you've made it this far, again, if I can present certain things that maybe you've never heard before, it's gonna be challenging. What the hell? What have we got to lose? I've come a long way, and now is the time to start talking about it. Again, I'm no authority, but I've got some experiences, and that counts for something. And I think in part it's definitely playing into what's going to be coming, I think. Okay, so until next time, this is your Hawkeye. Bless you all. Bye for now.
Guys, I get it. You want to know if someone fucked an alien.